DBT, Distress Tolerance 5. In the next part of the Distress Tolerance module, we're going to look at the 6 reality acceptance skills. They are radical acceptance, turn in the mind, willingness over willfulness, half smile, willing hands, and allowing the mind. Reality acceptance skills are to reduce suffering and increase sense of freedom through coming to terms with the facts of life. Accepting reality is accepting life as it is right now. Can you think of any times when you've refused to accept reality? Has this perhaps led to increased pain and suffering? Have you ever tried letting reality be as it is? Has this led to increased well-being? The first reality acceptance skill we're going to look at is radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is complete and total openness of reality as it is without arguing or avoiding. By reality we mean facts, not judgments like I am a bad person, for example. This does not mean that you approve of the things that are happening or have happened in your life, or that you're giving up or giving in. Have a think about what you need to accept. If you can think of just one thing, you're already on the way to acceptance. When practicing acceptance, you may feel pain or sadness, which are emotions that mean you are processing it. Stepping off the battlefield often leads to a sense of relief or calmness. So right now you might be thinking, if the point of skills practice is to change, then why do we talk about radical acceptance? If you accept negative circumstances, isn't that the same of approving of them? Well, the answer here is no. In her DBT book, Marsha Linehan tells a story of Nazi concentration camp survivors. They appeared to have been A, lucky they weren't killed, and B, they appeared to radically accept that they were in the concentration camp and that the guards had all the power. This was the fact, despite that it was wrong or not fair. Those who gave up died or committed suicide, and those who rebelled or argued with guards were killed or tortured. The survivors worked with the system to be effective and survive. So what's the difference between acceptance and radical acceptance? Acceptance is where we recognise the facts and stop fighting reality. Radical acceptance is accepting with all of your being, with your mind, heart and body, and opening yourself to fully experiencing reality as it is in the moment. Some people think to accept something means you can't change things. This is not true. This is what the dialectic in DBT stands for, finding the middle ground. So what has to be accepted? We have to accept actual facts. Don't accept judgments such as I'm an idiot, or exaggerations such as I never get what I want, and catastrophes like my whole life is ruined because I got sacked, etc. For example, someone you love has died. You need to accept this in order to carry on living your life without them, even if it is so painful. There are certain limitations we need to accept, meaning we might not be able to achieve or do everything that we want to. This doesn't mean that you have to stop aiming to achieve things. Only really likely limitations have to be accepted. For example, you can be limited by your environment and biology, genes, education, or what family we were born in, economic status, social status, country of birth, race, sexual orientation, body shape, height, age, illness, or disability. For example, if you're a boy, you'll need to accept that you can't get pregnant, something that's limited by your genes. Or if you aren't artistic, it's unlikely that you'll ever be an artist. Or if you're 4'10", you're not going to be a supermodel. We can also be limited by our past behaviour. So if you didn't concentrate much in school, then it's unlikely that you'll get into Oxford University. Or if you've been to prison, you might not be able to get every job. We also have to accept known probabilities. Most of us will have to pay tax. If we continue to smoke or avoid exercise, you have to accept you may have a shorter life or more disease. If you want to do well in an exam or at work, you'll have to work hard or study. Accepting that you have to save money avoids financial instability. We do not have to accept thoughts of fear or hopelessness about the future. These are not fact unless they are highly probable. Watch out for your mind tricking you into believing that these are facts. For example, I will never get a job. This is not true unless you have a terminal illness and are bedridden. However, it will be true if you refuse to apply for a job, but not if you're willing to work and apply for jobs. Accepting thoughts about the future will only hold you back and cause suffering. We have to accept that everything in the universe has a cause. It doesn't matter what the cause is. Things are as they are. It's not worth trying to explain why something happened. Saying it should have been different is not helpful. For example, a child cycling down the road gets hit by a speeding car. The car should have been going slower. The child shouldn't have been on the road. They should have been supervised. There are many causes which could be changed in the future. However, this doesn't stop the fact that it happened. This is similar to the why me prayer. It's helpful to understand that life can be worth living even if it involves pain. If we waited until our lives were pain-free, none of us would have a life worth living. So why do we accept reality? As we've said before, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Rejecting or denying reality doesn't change it. Avoidance or throwing a tantrum, demanding change, or denying the facts makes us feel better in the short term, but only causes us more suffering in the long term. Changing reality requires acceptance. If you refuse to accept, you're unable to see how to manage a situation clearly. An example of this is refusing to accept an illness that can lead to neglect of treatment or self-care. This leads to even more suffering. We must accept reality as pain cannot be avoided. It's nature's way of saying something is wrong. If we had no pain, it's likely that we would die very young, because we'd accidentally burn ourselves or go into freezing water, etc. People who are born with no pain threshold live very different lives. They must constantly be vigilant. Rejecting reality turns pain into suffering. Pain alone is just pain. Pain plus non-acceptance equals suffering. Pain can often be almost impossible to bear, but suffering is even worse. Suffering is caused by not accepting pain, for clinging on to what you want over what you have, by resisting reality. Radical acceptance transforms unbearable suffering into bearable pain. Acceptance may lead to sadness, but relief usually follows. Fear of sadness is often what holds people back from acceptance, but once you finally accept the pain of your past or present, which cannot be changed, this will be overwhelmingly sad, but can also help you to navigate your future. This can take lots of time. So when can we use radical acceptance? When life deals you major trauma, pain or difficulty? When you're in distress but not in crisis, so the situation is painful and can't be changed right now. Non-acceptance equals grumpiness, irritation and anger. Acceptance is soothing. For example, being in a traffic jam on your way to an appointment, or rain when you plan to go to the beach, or being poorly before you go on holiday. Use radical acceptance when problem solving isn't working. Stop and check the facts in order to see the clear picture. Radical acceptance is not approval. Accepting you having arthritis does not mean you approve of it. Radical acceptance is not compassion or love. It may make it easier to be compassionate, but it's not vital to like something we accept. Finally, radical acceptance is not passivity or giving in. People fear acceptance as they think it means nothing will change. In fact, the opposite is true. So how can we practice radical acceptance? You can observe that you're fighting reality. Remind yourself that reality is as it is, without judgment of good or bad. Try saying everything is as it should be. Consider causes for your reality so that you can change what needs to be changed. Practice opposite action. Say it out loud, do willing hands, imagine yourself accepting. Cope ahead. Imagine what you would do if you accepted. Imagine solving the problem. Attend to your body sensations. Notice sensations in your chest, stomach and shoulders. Notice where you feel tense. Practice mindfulness of emotions. Allow disappointment, sadness and grief to occur. You can survive it and feel calm. And finally, accept a life worth living which includes pain. Notice when you're refusing to accept pain, and remind yourself that life is worth living. Let go of catastrophizing and say, I can handle this. It might be a good idea to do pros and cons of accepting and not accepting. Put it on your wall and read it when acceptance is difficult. The next reality acceptance skill is turning the mind. Turning the mind is choosing to accept. Acceptance is a choice. Acceptance only lasts a moment, so you need to turn your mind over and over. The more painful the event, the longer it will take to accept. The choice must be made multiple times a day, an hour, or even a minute. Some examples are becoming disabled, or having a chronic illness, or accepting that you're having negative or anxious thoughts, by saying to yourself, I'm having a thought. So how do we turn your mind? You can observe that you're not accepting something. See the signs: anger, bitterness, or annoyance. Maybe you're trying the why me prayer, or avoiding or blocking reality. Make a commitment to accept reality. Turn your mind towards acceptance and commit to accepting. Do it again, over and over. Sometimes you have to go through the first 2 steps over and over, many times in a minute. Develop a plan for catching yourself drifting from acceptance. Cope ahead by checking in with yourself whether you need to re-accept. How will you know if you're not accepting?